And it's not just gas prices that are issues for us right now. We are continuing to feel the effects of inflation, and that's because it's at its highest level in 4 decades. Whether it's food, furniture, household items, or cars, just about everything is more expensive these days. Not only that, supply chain issues continue to compound the issue. NBC's Meet the Press moderator Chuck Todd joining us now. So Chuck, the Fed raised the interest rates 0.5 point in hopes of avoiding a recession, slowing this down at least. Is this too late? Is a recession inevitable?
Well, I don't look, this is an unusual economy, and the folks I've talked to say nothing is inevitable, even this recession, because there's a few things we have going for us. Number one is the low unemployment. Right? We don't have most recessions, there's usually a jobs crisis. Well, we don't have a jobs issue. So that's one thing going for us. And we have housing stability. Our issue in some ways, our housing inventory is so low that, we're not going to have a point where suddenly many people's savings is derived in their houses. If anything, homeowners are the one group of folks that have some inflation protection right now, right? At least the price of their home is able to rise in value as a bit of a mitigator to inflation. Doesn't help with cash in the moment, but certainly helps for those that are thinking about savings and retirement. So, this doesn't mean we're automatically headed to a recession, but as Larry Summers will tell you, we've never had a situation like we've had and not ended up in one. But, this is, look, there are supply chain issues. We're driven by the pandemic. We've got a man-made crisis with the issue of oil right now due to the war in Ukraine. So how long do those things last? We just don't know. How long does zero COVID policy last in China, which has been disruptive? There's a few things we don't know the answers to. The longer this goes in China with zero COVID, the longer the war goes, the more likely a recession happens. But if all of this gets sort of wrapped up or goes into another direction in the next 3 to 6 months, maybe we avoid the recession.
Well, let's hope that is the case. You mentioned supply chain issues. There are recalls, supply chain issues, those things creating massive shortages of baby formula. I feel like no sector is safe at this point. Many families are panicking. They simply cannot find food to feed their babies. They're forced to make these tough choices. So the Biden administration is saying that it's trying to correct many of these issues. Some are saying it's not enough. This is a very difficult situation for the administration to be in. There's this, and there's so many other issues surrounding the Biden administration right now.
Yeah, no, it's a case where, look, I think that, is it their fault? No, but they're the ones sitting in the captain's seat, and it's like people don't know where else to turn. You're like, what's going on here? I mean, at the end of the day, this is an industry that has been allowed to become a monopoly. That's a mistake. This is an industry that did what is called just-in-time supply chain. Well, that means not carrying an inventory. And you know what? If you don't have a recall and you don't have a shutdown factory, yes, you can predict the number of babies we have that use formula in a given year is a fairly stable and predictable number. But if you have a monopoly and suddenly one factory goes down, you don't have excess capacity. And this is something we learned during the pandemic, right? All this just-in-time global supply chain works really well when everything works really well. So the question I have for the government here is, why did we allow a monopoly on baby formula? And we don't allow exports of baby formula in. I mean, Canada has a supply that if we would be allowed to import it at a low cost, then we could have it. But for whatever reason, the American baby formula companies have successfully, essentially protected the American market. But if you wanted to solve that baby formula issue right now, we could lower tariffs and allow the Canadians to send us some. So I think that's the larger question here. Did government regulation essentially help create a monopoly that put us in this situation? I think that's a fair question to ask all our lawmakers.
Well, yeah, and who benefited from it? And I would love to find those answers. Right. That is for sure. Chuck Todd, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And make sure you tune in to Meet the Press this Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on WCNC Charlotte.